Hi. I hope that wherever you are in the world today is a good place and a safe place and an interesting place in a time of discovery for you. Seems like there's a lot going on in the world now. There's no shortage of things to talk about or experiences to share about. So here's mine. A few weeks ago, not long at all, there was a fire that started not far from where I live. A rather large one. In a short amount of time, it spread to about 33,000 acres. That's pretty fast. And it started just right around where the California-Oregon border is, if you can picture that on the map. And I live kind of in the first small town in Oregon just above that border. So it really wasn't very far away. And they couldn't yet tell the way the winds were going, how fast it was going to get here, if it was starting to move in that way. So right away, we were already told how to evacuate, what to evacuate, what number we were, where the staging areas were. We were already told that because the fire department was already shorthanded, and we have a historic town, that they were going to do their best to save the historic town and more than likely not be able to get around to all the residential areas. In other words, don't get our hopes up that if something happened to our home, that it would be saved, and to keep that in mind as we planned what to take with us to evacuate. So that made it real. That made it real pretty fast. So another bulletin circulated around that kind of told you what to pack, how to pack, in what order to pack, things that you might not always remember in a priority or scary moment. So important documents and pet food and sweaters or blankets or water, things like that you might need that you don't really want to forget. But also telling us that we might not have time for all those things, or that all those things might not fit in the car. So it broke it down into specific areas and time limits. In other words, if you had 3 hours to pack, you could take your time and fit things into the car, be better prepared. If you only had 2 hours, then the list got shorter, and so did everything else. From then it went down to 1 hour, and then down to 30 minutes. Along with that, there was a series of codes. Green light was you're okay still, but you are on alert. You want to be prepared. And kind of yellow-orange was other people near you are being evacuated now, and you might be next. So again, pay attention. And the last one was red. Somebody might be knocking on your door any moment now, or don't wait for someone to knock on your door. Get your things, get your animals, and get out the best you can. So people were communicating about all that and what to pay attention to. And I'm wondering to myself, wow, is this a lot of people really panicking because there was a fire here a few years ago and people were evacuated, and it did take out a good part of the next 2 towns over, even though the fire had started here. And some part of me thought, is everyone just panicked based on what happened a couple of years ago? Or are they a lot smarter than I am and just really taking this to heart, taking this really seriously, more seriously than I am right now? So everyone's watching the news reports, the Facebook pages that are dedicated to this, the posts of the first responders and the people that are right there, and kind of deciding on what to do. So I sat down for a little while. I can't say that I meditated. You can't really meditate in moments like that. But I was contemplating and paying attention to what it is that I should be doing in that moment. It didn't feel to me intuitively that this was an it moment, that it was really pack up my car and leave moment. It didn't feel like it to me, although it certainly felt like it could become that. It was very smoky outside. There was ash everywhere. The sky was that strange gray color that things are. If you've ever been in an emergency or anything is coming, you can feel it coming for sure. So instead of just thinking about what things I would take with me, which were few, really, when it came down to it, which were relatively few, and what I would do next. And instead, I started to think about, what if this was really not the end of my home or the end of this moment, but really the end of a time period or an era or this life? What would it mean to me then? So for instance, here's like an exercise for you. If this was your last life in a series of many, what memories would you want to take with you? What would you really take with you? If you could take enough memories that you could pack your car in, or they had to fit in a box that would fit in your car, what would you take with you? How many happy memories? How many poignant memories? How many lessons, hard-earned lessons that you really want to remember because you don't want to repeat those again no matter what? Where would you fit those into? And then to shorten the time, what if you had 2 hours or 1 hour or 20 minutes to condense your whole lifetime into 10 memories? What if it was 10 people who had made the most amount of difference in your life, and you wanted to make sure that whatever happened, you would not forget that or them? What if you could only take a few things that were either of value for someone else or were of value to you? What would you take? Would you take something that was a insulin that would be really important to a neighbor, or something that would be equally important to you if there was only room for one of those things? So it's sort of like a what if game, but at the same time, it's very real when something like that is happening, because there's a difference between playing what if when there's nothing going on. So yes, we're making lists, we're making emergency lists, and we're making don't forget lists, and we're making lists that say buy a case of water bottles the next time you're at the store in case there's an emergency. And there's a difference between really contemplating those things when you're in a potential emergency. So for instance, there's a lovely lady across the street from me who I don't know that well yet because I haven't lived here that long yet. I know she's 92 and that she lives by herself. And I don't have her phone number or her address. So if I have the time, I probably want to go knock on her door and see how I can help, or see if she needs room in my car, even though I don't really know her at all. So in a real emergency, we really start to think of these things. And so for the sake of an exercise, I would love you to do this with me in a real emergency. And it doesn't have to be a fire, and it doesn't have to be an earthquake or the end of the world, but a real emergency that says, what will I take with me? What is the most important thing to remember or to know or to offer? And in those moments, you don't know what will come up. It's not always water and blankets and make sure that your car has a full tank of gas in it. It's not always those things, even though those things might be on the list. So since we're in these really interesting times right now, I would love for you to try this exercise with me and see what it does or what it brings up for you, and see what you really are made of, what sort of person you are. And it's only exercise you do with yourself, so you don't have to say to anyone else, wow, I only really thought about myself and not other people, or I couldn't think of anything to do and I just sat here and froze. It's really an interesting exercise of the heart and the mind and the experience. But being the kind of times that we're in right now, it might not be that foreign to us. And perhaps you've already been in moments like this, depending on where you live and different emergencies that you have faced before. I have been in my share of earthquakes where you think it's the one and it's all over, and these things change you, and it's not bad to be changed by them. So in the end, what happened was that the fire started moving in the other direction. It started moving southwest of here instead of just a little bit north, which is where we were. And that was a kind of a strange feeling in itself, because we're saying, yes, good, it's not coming this way and I don't have to pack my car. But at the same time, it's knowing that someone 14 miles away from here is doing the exact thing that now you don't have to do. So there's no way that of not having compassion for these people, and know that within a moment's change of the wind, it could be you, it could have been you. And so your thoughts are automatically taken there and taken to other people in other areas, and know that they are near and dear to you as well. In this case, the direction that the fire was moving is not so very far away from when I lived in Mount Shasta. And although I knew it was more than likely not going to get all the way there, I had driven and been through all of these beautiful areas where I knew the fire was burning. Beautiful areas where there are horses and horse ranches and historic buildings and historic towns and historic post offices. And I couldn't even bear to imagine what was happening in those areas and to those people. And people did die in that fire. At the time, it was only 1% contained, barely. And I don't know how far it's gotten now, but I know that it's still burning. There's still ash in the sky. So these are the times that we're in. I want to continue to talk about them so that we don't take them for granted. One of the questions that I'll be answering soon that I received from one of you asks, other civilizations like the Atlantean civilization, did they know that their time was coming to an end? Were they warned? Did they take their warnings seriously? Did they wait until the last moment, like it appears that we are doing? Were people as divided about what to do, or whose fault it is, or whether something needs to be done at all, as we were? And so it's interesting to look back in history, and in some cases across time and dimension, as it were, to arrive at some answers that may be helpful for us. So we'll be looking at that as well in the next few weeks, and maybe by the next newsletter as well. So I will have more news for you soon about what else is happening with the website, new additions to the library, new classes coming up, and everything else. But for right now, do that exercise and let me know how it goes for you. I'll be talking to you again soon.